morning.
Welcome back.
James.
I'm going to be here.
I was like, okay, so I'm gonna have to talk. You know, I hate to do that, right?
Yeah. Well,
So,
sorry, I was otherwise engaged. What is that echo I hear? Is that just in my head? Oh, now it's gone. Okay, welcome back. Hey, we're glad to be here on at Kitchen on Fire, at Quarantine on Fire.
I'm glad to be here too.
We're here to answer all the questions you have about life, and hopefully they're all about food.
Yeah.
Food life.
Otherwise, we're just gonna. Well, we come up with answers a lot, though.
Yeah, but you probably don't want our answers about life because, I don't know, we've led more than one person astray. So, but when it comes to food, we know what we're talking about. And you know, one of the most, the whole premise of this podcast began when we took all these questions that had been posed by students that had taken classes at Kitchen on Fire.
Right.
And on their little exit survey.
More than 10 years, huh?
More than 10 years,
I mean, they had a lot of questions.
Yeah. Some of these people aren't even alive anymore, we're pretty sure.
We're hoping.
But we're going to answer their questions for their descendants anyway. And so they asked all kinds of questions about cooking, about food ingredients, about techniques, about all kinds. And then a lot of personal questions, most of which we've deleted. But one of the most frequently asked questions by so many students, besides whether we wear boxers or briefs.
I know.
Boxer briefs, is how we got started in our careers. Like, what led us to food? Why did Olive become a chef? Why did I become an international action hero? You know, those kind of things. So we're going to talk about that today. We're going to tell you a little bit about ourselves because it's our favorite subject. And
I'd like to also to do a little demo as well. So because I went to the market this morning and I saw some really cool stuff. And I wanted to show you how is it possible to make a meal in no time at all. This is what I specialize in, basically. Okay. So do you want me to start with that? So it's going to be super quick.
So are you saying you're going to make fast food?
Yep. I make fast food a lot. No, it's true. I make fast food all the time.
Yeah.
All right. So
fast food.
You know, let me start with that because it's going to go quick in the oven, and then we can do our questions, right?
Okay.
So guess what I found today? Have you seen those really cool?
Oh.
I was at the Monterey Market. Look at those.
Yeah, those are nice.
Beautiful. So I was thinking.
Those are the strangest looking eggs I've ever seen.
Well, that's because they were hanging like this.
Ah.
See, they're hanging eggs.
Those are baby zucchini.
Baby zucchinis, but they're really pretty and they're very firm. They're really amazing. So I got some of those also, and literally, this is what I'm going to do.
And as we discussed earlier, the baby zucchini are so much easier to deal with than the teenage zucchini.
Yeah. Yes, they don't answer yet. So I forgot my plate. I wanted to show you how to cut those, guys. And the thing is, when you don't know how to cook something, just get it in the oven. And then you check every 10, 15 minutes. Done? No done? Go back. I mean, seriously, it's like, okay?
Yeah.
So I'm going to do with this. Let's say you found those beautiful stuff. You want to make a quick meal, really quick. I'm going to take those and I can cook them literally like this, or I can make chunks just like this. Cool?
Yeah.
Because they're baby and organic, I'm going to keep everything.
My God, even I could do that.
So far, yeah, exactly. This is easy, right? You know how to do it?
So far, I think I can do it.
Look how easy that is. So I'm filling up my glass dish. This is a dish that's going to go in your oven. And I'm going to show you a little more view, guys.
Nice.
So I can see you better, James.
You can see me?
Yeah. Okay, that's it. Next, garlic in the skin. Okay, in the skin. I'm just gonna get those big guys. I'm gonna cut it in the skin just like this. And just,
Oh.
this one is not good. So
So does that mean you're not really going to eat the garlic? They're just there to flavor the dish?
No, we're gonna eat it, but it cooks in the skin so it won't burn.
Oh.
It's still very pretty. And then I can squeeze them out after.
Kind of like those suits firemen wear.
And the last thing is very quick trick here. Cherry tomatoes. Okay. Ready? Okay, here we go. Boom. All right, and we are done. Cool.
Wow.
And this is it. They're all cut.
Ah,
Boom.
that's a great trick.
Okay. In there, I need, of course, salt. I mean, a good amount of salt. Huh?
That's a great trick. I didn't even see your lips move.
A bunch of olive oil. Lots.
Yeah, olive oil.
Lots. And that's pretty much it. I'm going to put some herb de Provence.
Now, how do you feel about, would you put pepper on at this stage, or do you like to put pepper on after?
I like both. I like a little pepper to start with, James, and then I like also at the end. So pepper when you start, where's my towel? Pepper when you start, it's great. It protects the oil from burning. So you should always put some anyways. You don't want to put too much because you want to put some at the end regardless, because it's going to be really good. And on that, I'm going to put some herbs. So you know how I keep my herbs, guys. I always keep them and dry them. So now this is my oregano. I dry the other time. And what happened with the herbs, once they dry, they basically seal, all the water goes away, and then all the oils are trapped in. So I'm going to go and show you how to release those oils. You just put those dried herbs in there, and now you have to grind it. There you go.
Oh, you got one of those expensive grinders.
Yep. And now look at this. It smells really good. And I have a meal in, how long has it been, Chef? How long have I been cooking? Right, 5 minutes?
5 minutes.
Okay, done. That's it. That is it. Look at this awesome dish. This is your side. And I tell you, this is not going to cook long. And when it comes out, little vinegar on it. Boom, served. Or balsamic or whatever.
Nice.
Okay, done.
And that would be a great side dish to all kinds of stuff. Piece of fish, pork chop.
Anything.
Anything at all. Very cool.
And because it's the season right now, the tomatoes are almost over and the zucchinis are still there, you should really take advantage. I mean, that was the organic one, $1.98 a pound. You know what I mean? It's cheap stuff. Really
now,
cheap.
what if the tomatoes were really gone? I mean, you can sort of always get tomatoes.
Yeah,
but
the thing, when you cook tomato, you're fine because they'll get flavor at some point. But
right.
raw tomatoes are almost gone. They don't taste good. They just. So I'm gonna go in the oven. Now, the one thing I want to tell you guys, when you go in the oven, get a good habit of always putting a tray under. It's just a security. You know, if something happens in the oven, whatever, and also it's really much easier to grab. This thing is gonna get hot, and I'm gonna have a really hard time when I go in my oven with my, the towel to grab. It's gonna be really difficult. This is gonna be always easy. The tray is always easy. I can grab it with whatever, with one hand. So always a tray. Also, if something happened, there's not a mess in your oven. And this is really amazing. Temperature, I'm going to go really hot, 425 or 450. Really, really hot for maybe 10 minutes. Good? All right.
Do you think you could use something like? Could you use sun-dried tomatoes, like
Yes,
the really good ones from Italy out of a
but
jar?
you can't.
It
For the
would
sun.
be a wholly different flavor, of course.
So for the sun-dried tomato, what I would do is I would keep it for after. I would make a goat cheese sun-dried tomato chop, and when that comes out, I can sprinkle and let the goat cheese and the sun-dried melt a little.
Oh, that's a good idea. You could even stick it back in the oven for like a minute, couldn't you, or 30
Exactly.
seconds?
Right.
All right. All right.
Cool.
Very good.
Okay.
Very, very good.
Or
You could even use canned tomatoes from Italy,
well,
but
canned
of course,
tomatoes are great.
they would kind of fall apart in the dish, which wouldn't be so bad.
No, the tomatoes always fall apart, guys. Don't expect them to see them. But like for example, you know, James, we should talk about the cooking tomatoes.
Yes.
What do we use for? Why Marzano? Why the long tomatoes compared to the flat one?
It's very interesting because tomatoes went to Italy. They came from the New World, of course, and the Italians really took to them, particularly in southern Italy, because it was a much more meager existence down there, especially a century ago. You know, it's very rocky, terrible land for growing crops. That's why they grow so many olive trees, because olive trees can thrive in those conditions. It's why they also grow a lot of wine. You know, wine and olives love bad, rocky, dry soil. So
true.
But they don't have a lot of, you know, they don't have cows, for example. So they you know, and they're just, it's always been a kind of much more poorer part of Italy. So they really took to tomatoes, because why wouldn't you? They're cheap, they're easy to grow, they grow well in that climate, and they go so well in the dried pasta dishes that southern Italy is famous for. And Marzano, the Marzano tomato just happens to, it's like the perfect storm of growing. They produce these just fabulous tomatoes. And I don't know really what they're like right off the vine, if they're good to eat off the vine, but they're particularly known for their ability to hold up in canning. And so we get them over here. We get a lot of Marzano tomatoes from Italy that are in cans or in jars, and they're really great to use for all kinds of sauces, certainly pasta.
They're used specifically for sauces. And Marzano are the long tomatoes.
Yeah.
Compared to the flat tomatoes. So this is the two tomatoes we cook with. The flat one, just like the onions, the flat onion are the sweet one. Those tomatoes are not the one we cooked with. They have a lot of water and seeds.
Right.
The long one, the longer it is, the more sauce it goes into. That's less seed and more meat. So the Roma tomato, which is very available, that's why we cook. You know, it's the cheap one. Even organic are pretty cheap. And the Marzano would be the fancy, the nice.
Yeah, Marzano's a little bit longer than the Romas are shorter, but and I know for a fact I've eaten Roma tomatoes. They're just not a great eating tomato out of hand. They don't have a lot of moisture inside. They're kind of tough,
right?
But man, they are fabulous to cook with. And the great pasta sauces of southern Italy are all based on these kinds of tomatoes. And we're very lucky because we can get them here. There's several brands that come into this country from Italy.
I get them at Monterey Market.
Yeah.
They were not that today, though.
Well, that's the beauty of them, too, is you can get them at very fancy gourmet shops, and you can get them at the supermarket.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of difference. They're
not today, though. And the early girls are going away. I mean, we are at the end. We're at the end. You can see the tomatoes are a little...
Yeah.
So it's your last chance, guys. You should do anything with tomatoes right now. Tomatoes are exceptional food, especially when you cook them. I'm not saying it's not good raw. It's just when it's cooked, you're getting the lycopene more integrated to digestion, and it's amazing food. It's incredible food. So those are really super food. Tomato was for the longest time a poison in France. So in Europe, in general, completely everywhere.
Now, when I eat tomatoes in the summertime, when they're super ripe and super good, those heirloom tomatoes, I like to just either slice them up or dice them up
Yep.
and put sea salt on them and a little bit of vinegar. Usually I use balsamic vinegar, but even just a red wine vinegar is good, and a little olive oil. And then I like to, toss it a little bit and let it sit for a while. And they kind of
You can do
macerate a
that.
little bit. It's almost like they cook a little bit.
You can do a dressing that you can keep for your, when you go picnic. The picnic is a big thing with tomatoes because you have those tomatoes, you just open them, put stuff on it. You can put mayonnaise. You can put a anchovy vinaigrette.
Yeah.
Very, very good. It's just you have to break the anchovy with the vinegar and the garlic, add parsley, and then add oil. And that's your persillade that you put on your tomatoes.
Nice. Yes.
Frode!
And you can put that in a jar so that you could take it with you. Hey,
No,
Frode.
Frode, my old chef from Texas Coyote in Paris, he is working on what was that, chef? A platform.
He's hailing us from the North Sea. I hope he's on the oil rig because the North Sea can be very rough and cold up there. Yes, Frode's the chef for an oil rig out there somewhere between Scotland and Norway.
Yeah.
And he cooks for a couple hundred people every day. He has to provide 3 meals a day. He brings in boatloads of food and just has to cook it. It's an extraordinary job. It takes a real skilled chef to do that, but it would also be a real challenge even for an experienced chef to just crank out that much food.
We should have him back on the show when he can. That was fun.
Yes.
We like cool adventures from chef.
Maybe we should do a live show remote from his oil rig.
That would be really cool. But he said it was difficult. He said it may happen, but we can't count on it. But that would be fun to see I know chefs from all over the world. Obviously, I've worked with so many people that now I can actually have people call from anywhere. It would be fun.
Great.
So let's have Ford on before he drowns.
Yes. So, well,
all right, so tomatoes were good. Done tomatoes. We're done with the tomatoes. Cool.
Back to our original question. Do you want to go first? How did you come to a life in food? Did you decide one day you wanted to dedicate your life to food, or did it just happen gradually? I know the answer to this, but I'm asking you for our listeners.
Let me find a photo.
Olivier's French, so he was born with a wooden spoon in his hand. And cooking is like an innate ability, just like,
I was born with a spoon. So true.
You know how some animals are born and they instinctually know how to do certain things? That's me.
That's you here, and that's me over there, okay?
That's me on my Aunt Bee's farm when I was...
Can you see that? Can you see my... So the chicken is James?
Yes.
And I'm over there sitting next to the tree. So we're already working together, you see?
We've been together a long time.
He's looking for a pen to write the next book.
Look at me, as
so let's start with you.
Born to lead.
That's funny, huh?
Well, I certainly never intended to go into a life in food. But I was born in the American heartland and mostly grew up in Nebraska. And I grew up around farms and dairies all my life. I had a lot of my father was from Iowa, and we used to go there a lot. And my aunt and uncle had a farm, which is the one you see here. My aunt and uncle did not have Parmigiano Reggiano on their farm, but anyway, so used to spend a lot of time on the farm, spent a lot of time around farm animals, pigs, cows, goats.
Yeah, me too.
And you know, I didn't really think about it at the time, but the result was that I was born a good eater. There I am chowing down. That was at my aunt's house in Minneapolis. Oh my God. That's going to be the cover of my book, by the way.
how to eat.
Yeah. The good thing about growing up where I did is that we were not gourmets by any stretch of the imagination, but we knew where our food came from.
Yeah, right.
I was around food production. My Aunt B, I remember her taking me out early in the morning to collect eggs in the hen house. I remember having milk right out of the cow. It was still
Yep,
warm.
I remember that.
It took me a little getting used to because I wasn't used to milk being warm.
Right.
Usually at our house, if the milk was warm, somebody was in trouble because they left it out of the refrigerator. But it was so delicious and it was so rich that it didn't bother me at all that it was warm. And
No, it's
you
actually
know,
good.
I was with her when she killed a chicken once and plucked it and then roasted it for dinner. And so I had a really good understanding of how food got to your plate.
Right.
And like I said, I didn't really think about it that much at the time, but looking back, it really laid the foundation for a lot of what I did afterwards. And then I moved to New York to be in theater. Actually, I was an actor and a director, and I went
Crazy, huh?
I went to New York to seek fame and fortune on the Broadway stage, and instead, I sort of happened. I didn't achieve fame or fortune in anything, but I did manage to sort of fall into a food life. I through various circumstances and a couple of other jobs, I ended up being a buyer at Dean and DeLuca in New York at the original Dean and DeLuca store. Helped move them into the big main flagship store that just closed this past year.
Oh yeah.
And so once I got to Dean and DeLuca, you know, I mean, arguably the most famous food store in the country, if not the world, that has been hugely influential for all kinds of not only retailers, but chefs and food writers. And one of the things that struck me when I started there was just how much I did not know about food, because here I was around all these foods that were very foreign to me, balsamic vinegar, and I didn't know very much about olive oil. And we had tons of cheeses, and many of which I'd never seen or heard of, and meats and all kinds of packaged products. So I quickly, because part of my area of responsibility was also
expertise. I like that. That was good.
Was also the cookbook department, which we had, like, at its peak, we had something like 2,000 titles in our cookbook collection. Wow. And so I just started reading books. I would take them home at night. I just read a lot of our library, and then also very quickly I began to travel. I traveled for my job. I used to go overseas once or twice a year to France and Italy and Germany. And the great thing about traveling when you're a buyer for Dean and DeLuca is that eating is a major part of your mission. So, and I would travel with Joel Dean, and he was a real connoisseur, and he loved to go to good restaurants. So we ate at some of the finest restaurants in Europe. This is a picture of me in Rome, working very hard, as you can see. Yeah. That was after I think I was maybe still at Dean and DeLuca. Anyway, I was in Italy, I was in Rome for a conference after I'd started food writing, and I was with a group of women who were also food writers, and lots of fun to be with. So there we are, working very hard. I think we were drinking Campari sodas there.
Campari soda or Negroni?
I think they were Campari sodas. This particular place, that's how they served them.
Oh, okay.
I doubt it was Negronis. I don't think we would have been drinking Negronis that day. But anyway,
so it's fun. Yeah, so it's always food, huh? Food.
So and I traveled a lot. And the other thing we would do when we would travel, I mean, most of our trips from Dean and DeLuca were to go to trade shows. But while we were in whatever city we were in, whether it was Paris or Milan or Frankfurt or wherever, we always made time to go and look at the local markets. We went to all kinds of food shops. And then, like I said, we went to at night we went to great restaurants. So I just got this amazing free education about food. And then also at Dean and DeLuca, I had the good fortune to get to know a great many chefs and cookbook authors. And that's where I learned most of what I know about cooking, was hanging out with chefs, sometimes in their kitchens, working with cookbook authors. I used to do cookbook signings in the store, and I would cook stuff out of their books and have it available for the people that would come to the signing. And I just was around food all the time. I learned a lot from Dean and DeLuca, and just all the food people I got to know. And then later, through another fluke, I ended up sort of in the food magazine business. I started writing for one of the trade journals, the Gourmet Retailer. And again, with them, I traveled all over the world to go to trade shows, but also I would always get invited on these press trips, get invited by some government to come and see their cheese production or their olive oil production or whatever it was. And so, they would fly me around, and I would get to visit all these factories and markets, and we'd be given these huge banquets. And a lot of times there were chefs on the trip, and I'd got to know them, and we would cook over there. We would taste things.
Because I remember when I met you when you work in that Italian restaurants.
Oh, Mazzini. Yeah, I helped open Mazzini.
Not Cesar. You were Mazzini. Right.
You were at Cesar. Yeah. Yeah, that was
a long time ago. That was like long time.
That was Alice Waters' brother-in-law and sister that owned that place, and they hired me to set up the bar because I had a lot of experience bartending.
Right.
So it was funny because I actually hadn't tended bar in many, many years, but I knew way more about spirits and cocktails than I did back when I used to tend bar as a young man. So my cocktails had definitely gotten better. But so that's it, just a life of always working in food, traveling, working with people that were really good at what they did. And it was, what's more fun than going around eating great food?
Well, that's the thing. One day we talked about this. What's the goal in life is to make enough money so you can travel and eat whatever you want.
Right.
So we do that already.
Yeah,
and we don't make money. I mean, I don't know about you, but
well, I had a real knack for not making money. So it's fortunate that I had a career that
right. That's exactly
allowed me to travel, because I wouldn't have been able to take nearly all those trips if I had to do it on my own money. I did travel occasionally on my own just for fun, but most of my I've gone to Europe 50 some times, and I think one or two were just on my own money, just for fun, and the rest were all somebody else was paying for it.
Right. So you work with like olive oil, cheese companies, vinegar,
right?
Right, and you go and they invite you and you write about it and you come back. It's pretty cool.
Right, and at the magazine, at the Gourmet Retailer, who I worked for like 11 years, I was the food editor. So the magazine talked about the housewares industry too, relating to the table, but I wrote all about food. So I did a regular column on cheese and meats, and I wrote countless articles about olive oil and vinegars and the cuisines of different country. I'd write articles about the food of Italy or the food of France, and because I had this venue, anytime I went on one of these press trips, I would come back and write a big story about it. So the people that invited me loved it because they sort of got their money's worth. And I loved it because not only did it give me something to write about, but I had this fabulous experience. And some of these trips, the experiences I had were incredible because you're there with the government or some organization, and because you're there to see a specific thing, you get access to things that you would never see as a tourist. Or at least it would take you months to be able to find these things. And we were just taken into places that tourists weren't allowed. And
right.
and somebody else had done all the research, so they knew where to take us and, you know, what cheesemakers to visit. And we visited, you know, big factories, but we'd also go to little farms out in the middle of nowhere where the room. Oh yeah, there. That's how we found Olivier. He was in an olive grove.
That's me traveling.
He was, see how the roof is open? He was trying to harvest that way, and we told him, no, you got to get out of the car.
Then I stopped harvesting. That was him.
He said, well, if I can't do it in my car, then forget it.
Let me get my zucchinis.
I think if I sat in that car, I would need that sunroof just to put my head through so I could drive.
I know, right?
So anyway, I was very, very fortunate, and it was I stopped writing for magazines a couple of years ago after I had started a magazine and worked for somebody else, and now I'm just sort of writing freelance and doing the show, of course, and tending bar, and well, not really tending bar now because the whole industry.
Oh yeah, right. Down. Oh my God. Well, we did. I was last night at the Cesar. It was great.
Oh, good.
It was great. Yeah. This is my thing, guys. Can you see
that looks great.
Can you see that well? Yeah.
That looks really, really good. You could just have a little side of rice or something with that, and it would be a beautiful.
Well, yeah.
One.
I mean, yeah. But you see all the stuff.
Yeah.
Perfect. Nothing is burnt. So basically, I protected my oil. So there's no burn. Everything is super awesome. There's plenty of flavor. And look at this thing. It's beautiful. My garlic, I can just pinch it out and eat it.
And like you said, if you were to crumble a little goat cheese over that,
or Parmesan or whatever,
and then just make a little tiny green salad or some little herb salad, that's a beautiful lunch.
So here I would put maybe a little piece of fish, like you said.
Yeah.
Also, you can do a piece of maybe some ham, whatever, a little pate.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and that could become a salad, by the way, in like an hour. So basically, a little balsamic. Little balsamic right here, just for the fun. And now it's ready to go.
And it doesn't matter if that goes to room temperature; it's still just as delicious.
Yeah, exactly. And now I have a really good, easy. I am all for easy and fast, man.
And you know that, and then you just take a little slice of pate on the side, with some little herb salad, bottle of wine.
Oh, you could do
maybe a baguette.
We could do a costinis.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh yeah.
That's perfect.
All right, so
well, thanks for sharing that. Now that we're all hungry and want to eat some of it, and you're blocks away.
Just in case.
I guess I could come up there.
Oh yeah. Are you working today?
No.
Okay, so just to show you guys what's happening, Cesar is right next door.
Yeah.
And James lives a couple of blocks, so we see each other like all the time. And I go to Cesar, have drink sometime when there's a little bit of room. There's only 3-4 tables, but you're building something, right?
Right. We're building every day. It gets a little better. We're going to expand out into the street.
We're going to have a little thing. And
unfortunately, I live just 6 blocks away, so it's really easy to go back and forth. Very nice.
So I heard that they're going to extend the outdoors.
We're building out into the street like so many of the other restaurants are doing or have done, and we'll have a bunch of tables out there, and hopefully it'll just help us continue to stay open and survive this whole thing.
Hopefully the weather would be good also.
Yeah, I mean that's the only caveat is we're getting all this together just as we're going into the fall. So, nighttime. I mean, right now we're only open till 8 o'clock, which is so unusual for us because normally Cesar was always open till midnight.
Right.
And we used to serve until 11:30 at night. The kitchen would close at 11:30 on the weekends. But hopefully it'll be okay. I mean, people will come, and I always tell people, well, if you get cold, I'll just bring you our list of spirits, and you can choose a nice brandy to keep you warm. But I think people are learning. They bring sweaters and.
But you never said that to me, but yeah, thank you.
No. I never offered you a brandy. That's That's
Oh,
a shame.
a warm sweater.
Yeah. So I
So
was
how do you like?
I was writing for the magazines, and I ran into Jim Mazer one day, who's
Oh, yeah, I did.
mentioned
Yeah,
as Alice's brother-in-law, and he said
I just
something
saw him,
about.
Jim. I just
Oh
saw him
yeah,
3 days ago
oh
outside
yeah,
of Sydney.
I saw him a week or so ago,
I said
and
hello. How are
he said he and Laura were opening this restaurant, and I said I was very interested. So he ended up hiring me to run the bar, and it was a fabulous little place. It was all modeled on a favorite restaurant of theirs in Florence. So it was at dark wood. It had a white marble bar. It was
Oh, you mean Mazzini? That was good.
Mazzini,
That
yeah,
was
and
fun. That was fun.
it was up on Telegraph Avenue, and it was a really lovely little jewel box of a place. We had a great chef who had studied in Italy and cooked in Italy. The food was all Tuscan food, so it
Beautiful.
was very
Yeah.
very simple but very flavorful. Lots of vegetables, and it was great. It was great. I did that for a while, actually, I did that for a little over a year, and then my editor at Gourmet Retailer, I was writing for them freelance at the time. He called me and asked me if I wanted to join as a full-time editor. So I said yes, and I left Mazzini, and that's when I started my full-time magazine biz. The food rag. But it was a great experience. It was all great experiences. Everything I've done in the food world has been great experience. For what, I'm not sure, except my own memories, which are quickly fading. But
I know. Is it? You always worked in food.
yeah,
Pretty much. Yeah.
yeah,
Me too. Me too.
always
Me too.
since
Right.
I was, I don't know, since I was 25 years old,
Right.
which of course was only 5 years ago. But
Well, for me, it was 15 years.
oh,
Not 15 years ago. I was 15 years old.
oh,
So it's a long time ago.
so how did you get started? You were
Well,
born and raised in Paris.
yeah. Born and raised in Paris. My parents. Sorry.
I've heard they had good food there.
Yeah. My parents. My mom is from France, from Auvergne, and my dad is from Algeria. So for my dad, I'd be Jewish Algerian, and so we have this food habits also because all my aunts on both sides cook. Everybody cooks. Could be on my mom's side, my dad's side. So they all cook every day, all the time. We are a huge family, and we used to spend all the summers together. So 20, 30 people, always for 3 months, on and off. People come, leave. So the food is the center of everything in our family. And I started to work with my mom when I was 15 years old. She had a really cool restaurant in Paris. And I started there doing, dishes, obviously.
What was the name of it? Do you remember?
Yeah,
I've always meant to ask you that.
Le Trou des Halles,
Huh.
like the Halles, the hole.
Right. Yeah.
And what happened is they started to build the whole Halle in front of the restaurants.
Uh-huh.
So we could not access the restaurant anymore, so we had to close.
Oh, right. Wow.
But they were right at the hall, so they had to close. It was too much. It was too much. There was nobody there. But it was a really good restaurant, and people would come out all the time. We had a lot of artists coming because my parents knew a lot of the actors from La Comédie Française or opera. So it's fun. And the food
she must have bought all her food at the market, right? Right across the
yeah. Well, and Rungis. So Rungis, I don't know if you know Rungis, guys.
It had moved to Rungis by then?
Yeah. So if you are in Paris, anybody that goes to Paris has to go see Rungis in the morning. You have to. It's just it's insane.
The earlier the better.
Well, you go usually around, the latest to go is 6.
Yeah.
So you go around 5:30, right after the club. I mean, in between club, basically.
Yeah.
And you do your little shopping, and then the club's open at 7. So you just have time to do your ordering. They'll deliver around 11. But Rungis is not that far, so it's like 10 minutes. So when we are in the Champs-Élysées in a club, you can actually, because at night you have nobody driving, so you can take the freeway quickly, get to Rungis, down, Do you order, have a little drink of something while they load your car? It's funny.
Yeah, there's
You have to see.
there's a couple of restaurants out there too where you can.
Oh yeah, super good. And
Yeah.
they open at night because all these people work,
Hmm.
and it's fantastic. It's fantastic. You have to see it. It's like going to the. I would say it's like going to the Japanese tuna
Oh, the fish market in
fish
Tokyo.
market. I mean, not the same, but it's kind of the idea about this
Sure.
crazy life in the morning. It's like you have a whole life at night. You go in those big warehouses, it's all lit, and there's all this food that people are
Well,
cooking.
and the great thing about it is that it's got the best food from all over France
Oh yeah,
goes to Rungis.
yeah.
So it's all there, and you in the dairy hall you see these just like mountains of fabulous cheeses from all
Oh
over
yeah.
France. Big
And
wheels, those metal,
seafood,
those wood boxes full of real camembert and brie de meaux and
seafood, meat.
seafood.
Everybody's here. Oysters. You can make. I mean, it's everything. It's crazy. You
Yeah.
have live animal, and we used to go there because the prices are very competitive when you go buy directly, and
Mhm.
rather than having it dairy, it was not a big deal. I would do that twice a week. Get all
Yeah,
my food.
a lot of chefs just have little vans, right? And
Yeah,
they would go out there
exactly.
and they'd buy all the food.
I had one. I had a little tiny the little Renault 5
Oh, nice,
with a little
nice.
hatchback. I would load that car, man, because I had a big place. So I used to sell a lot of food, so I had to, you know, crank that food in there. And
Right.
then we had a place like Costco in France called Metro, where all the restaurant people buy their food. So you had all kind of quality, but we'd get some good stuff from my butcher. I had a good butcher right next door that was really awesome. And my fish was from my fishmonger. And my produce, I had to go to Marché Montorgueil. He was my supplier.
That's a famous one.
So he was a little bit more expensive, a little bit. We had a good agreement. I worked with him for so many years. I would get some good deals, nothing crazy. But the food was always pristine. And when I was not happy with the food, I could just send it back because he lives literally across the street. That's the market. So
Hmm.
when I was not happy, I would tell him, look, this is not good. And he was like, oh, no, no problem. Okay. Because it was right there. It was literally right there. I could go and bring the case. So it was cool. It was a cool little area. I was in Leal, next to the Trou. All the merchants are here. And there's a restaurant that we used to go once a week. And it's only on Wednesday night. Wednesday night at the restaurant, I close at 3 a.m. instead of 5. So that was cool.
So you got a good night's sleep that night.
No, because we'd go eat at La Tour de Montlhéry. You know this restaurant, James. It's a
Yeah.
restaurant that open all night, and you go and you don't order you say Bordeaux, Beaujolais, or Burgundy,
Uh-huh.
and they bring the bottle, like the big bottle, and you drink whatever you want, and you'll pay. Come at the end, and they'll make a mark. You pay like this.
Yeah.
So they bring the wine. You bring one glass or a bottle. They'll charge whatever you drink, and then each meal is like when so you're there to start with the hareng, the
Uh-huh.
herring in
Yeah.
oil with served with warm potatoes, right?
Yeah.
So they serve the herring in the big comment on dit the big jar,
Like a big. Oh yeah.
and a tiny potato, tiny like a very small. You eat that's all that much fish and a
Right.
tiny plate of potatoes. And
It's
the cassoulet is the whole cassoulet. So it was, I don't know if you can say expensive, but at the time you would go and so it's a one price. You just pay 120 francs. So it's expensive for France, I guess, but it's like $30 or something, 25
yeah.
bucks.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is not a dish. It's like, or the saucisse lentille is a huge, and you can eat as much as you want.
So you didn't go by yourself. You'd go with
No,
friends.
no,
You'd go with
no.
friends, and you'd.
And then there's tons of people waiting, and there's always a wait. And La Tour de Montlhéry is still open today. and it's still his son that's still there today. It's incredible. Fode and I, we'd go, and we used to drink. Fode was a big drinker, and of course we get super hungry. We ordered those meals, the two of us, or the three, or the four of us. We ordered those meals. I mean, you could not believe like how much. And we spent 3 hours eating and drinking, and
Wow.
we had to meet other people. And we're like, ah, for that, let's just eat. And we, pate and salad, and and we're like, ah. And at 5 o'clock in the morning, we'd come out, and all the butcher, that was their canteen for the butcher and the milk and the dairy. That was their restaurant. So we had to leave before 4:30 or 5, because after that it was a huge line.
Yeah.
So the good time to come was at 3:30, where the line was just dying a little bit. But that place was insane. It's crazy.
Wow. You know, there's a restaurant not far from there called Chez Georges, and it was one of my favorite little lunch spots when I'd be walking around looking at shop.
That's not the place on the
No, that's a different one. That one's just called George.
Jean.
And this was Chez Georges, and it was just a little place, but I used to love going there. But that was my first experience with. I ordered a glass of wine. I wanted just a verre rouge, right. And they bring out a glass in the bottle, and they put it down, and I thought they'd made a mistake, and I said, no, I just want a bottle. And she says, no, it's okay, you drink what you want, and we just charge you for what you drink. And I thought, oh my God, that's so civilized. Of course, I ended up drinking the whole bottle, but that's the
thing. You can't like. It's like someday I was talking to one of my students, and I was telling this person, I said, and so there was a list of ingredient, and in there it says, leftover wine. And she said, what is leftover wine?
Yeah, what does that mean? Yeah. I used to, when I was in the houseware, when I was selling kitchenware, I used to get these elaborate devices for closing a champagne bottle to keep it fresh. And I used to say, "What? I don't get these. Who leaves champagne in the bottle? I mean, for God's sake, just drink it."
My mom, she would never do that.
Oh my God.
It's called a sacrilege.
Yeah.
You say sacrilege?
Yeah.
So my mom would never do that. She was like,
yeah, no. Champagne is too precious.
It's bad. It's bad. What she say? It's bad. Bad muju.
Yeah, bad karma. And champagne is very difficult to make. A lot of labor goes into it. A lot of people work really hard to make this product that is just one of the most extraordinary things we have. So why would you ever open a bottle and not finish it?
So champagne is old, huh? It was made in, remember we talked about it another time?
Yeah.
That's something we can talk about next time, but champagne, I know people know, for example, stuff like Dom Pérignon.
Yeah.
Dom Pérignon is interesting. He's the first one to come out with the cork.
Yeah.
So that's how they were able to bottle those champagnes. They were able to bottle the cork and find a cork instead of what they used to put there, wood or wax. They used to wax the bottle.
Wax, yeah.
And one of the big something to keep the wine was retsina.
Oh,
that
yeah.
You find in Greek wine, that retsina that they used to put in wine to keep that. That's why the Greek wine has sometimes that.
Right. People got used to the flavor, so they started
I
making
love the flavor.
Way.
I love it. It's weird.
I like retsina. Do you think Dom Pérignon liked drinking Dom Pérignon, or maybe he didn't know about it? It's probably too expensive.
They did. Of course they did. That was the champagne of choice. So in the field or the land or the monastery, it's who had the best wine and the best food, remember? So basically, if you had the best food, you could have the best lord coming, or even the king come to your table, and we can discuss arrangements. But if you have crappy food or crappy wine, the king or the lord or any of the seigneury would not come. They would not bother traveling for days just to eat some crappy food.
Yeah.
And that's why we started to see in the 1600s some star chef starting to be famous, like Vatel. Vatel came later, but he was Taïwan.
Caram.
Tyrrell.
Yeah.
Tyrrell was, what was that? Long time ago. I would say 1500. 1600, 1500.
Oh, wow. Yeah, a long time
ago. No, Tyrrell was a famous chef. And then so people would go to like they heard about it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So no,
I
I was
find food very interesting, but I find the food of France infinitely amusing. There's just so much you can talk about and learn about the food in France because there's such a rich history,
amusing.
and because the food is so important to everyone in France that it's there's just all this tradition and culture behind it and long history. Because in the United States, we're first of all we're only 275 years old or something. So it's a fraction of the history of most European countries, but also because when this country started, it was such a rugged, austere place. I mean, the pioneers that were moving west, they didn't have these rich food traditions because they just didn't have that kind of thing available. They had meat.
Right.
Meat and more meat.
And the French food was dictated for many centuries by the way food was conceived in France for many years until after the 1800 was all the books that were made at the time were made for professionals. So it's always in a professional mind. Other countries tried to have fun with the food. The French didn't have fun at all. They were very strict on the food. Some chefs after the 1900, 1920, 1930 started to go crazy stuff. And then after that, the Nouvelle Cuisine came. Remember that completely changed everything.
Yeah.
But France has always been very classic. And it's one of the things they kept that cuisine really rigid for stupid reason. But that's what happened. And they would not allow any diversions. That's why those books were written for places like La Coupole, Taiwan, all those restaurants use those manual because it's a regiment. And that's how French cooking was. It only kind of loosened up much later. Italian started earlier. A lot of the countries started earlier, but the French were really, they didn't accept any of deviation from the food. It was a little bit crazy.
Right. And also in Italy, they didn't have the kind of fine dining necessarily tradition that France had. So restaurants were much more important. And so they wanted to codify everything so that if you ordered a coq au vin in 3 different places, it would be the same thing.
Crazy, huh?
Yeah. And in the 20th century, of course, chefs began to rebel and say, look, I don't want to serve this sauce with this thing. I want to make something else. And they wanted to do lighter sauces. They wanted to do sauces that were more based on the cooking juices and things rather than emollients and elaborate,
So in the steps, exactly. So the cuisine became more personal.
Right.
As before that, it's French.
Right.
And which was kind of like very, very rigid and a little hermetic, right?
Yeah.
But it worked for a long time. But then, people get tired.
All those early cookbooks in France? I found out that they wrote all those books in French. Did you know that?
They were not translated to French?
No, they actually wrote them in French. Can you believe that?
They must
have been very clever.
That was in actually they wrote them in Old French, which is along the Rabelais.
Mm-hmm.
You know Rabelais?
Right, yeah. He was a real hedonist.
Rabelais was a giant that would eat like crazy, was a gastronome.
Yeah.
Amazing stories.
Right.
That's something that would be interesting for American people to read. The Rabelais, La Vie de Rabelais.
Uh-huh.
They have that in English, I'm sure.
I'm sure that I know they do. I know it's been translated.
Really so
it's been translated all over the world, I think.
It's so fun. It's this monster, this giant that eat like all this food and
But people in France are really smart. I'm impressed by how smart and clever they are. The kids in France, they speak French. They're only like 2 years old and they already speak French perfectly.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I've been studying it all my life and I still can't speak French. So
it's like me with English. Yes.
I'm not as smart as a 2-year-old French kid.
I'm not as smart at all.
I love the French language, though. It's not only is it is it beautiful to listen to, but it's also got a rich history, and it's fun. Plus, not to mention, there's been so much great French literature. So,
do you know my friend Les Noisettes?
I know of her.
No. What's his name? Alain.
Oh, I don't think so. Maybe.
You don't know Alain from Les Noisettes? This guy, it's a beautiful. He makes the best croissant, guys. If you're looking for croissant in Berkeley, that's the guy. He's busy though, but he's at the farmers market on Sundays.
Oh, right. Where? At the
Kensington.
Oh, in Kensington.
And he sells all his croissants are just out of this world. And he has a store that's called Les Noisettes. I've known this guy for 25 years. He's one of my chefs, Alain, from Morocco.
I'll have to go to that farmer's market.
Another Moroccan Jew.
Huh. You know, I learned to shuck oysters from a bunch of Moroccans at a New Year's Eve party in France.
Yeah, lots of oysters there. That's right.
They brought a couple cases of oysters to this New Year's Eve party, and I was in the kitchen with them, and they taught me how to shuck them, and I sit there and I must have shucked a couple dozen oysters.
Right.
There's your parents.
That's where we go to. Last year, I went to the market, and you can buy tons of oyster for like, I don't know, like 10 francs or something, or 8 francs.
Nice.
And they open that in front of you, and you eat all this, and you drink a little muscadet with it. Oh.
Yeah. Oh, look at your mom. She's so beautiful. I haven't seen her in years.
They are not doing great, but
she must miss me.
They're getting old, both of them.
Yeah, I'm glad that's not happening to us.
Yeah.
You know, I'll quickly tell you a story about being at a trade show in France once. I was in France, and it was actually a houseware show. So it was lots of kitchenware and tabletop items and stuff.
You like me?
And, you're all dressed up there for a night out.
That's when I do my training for people coming out of federal prison. Oh, no, those are refugees. I'm sorry. This is a great project. This is another organization I work with.
So I'm at this trade show, and I'm getting really hungry. So I'm walking through, and I look for a place to eat. And I found a place where you could get a piece of foie gras, and what else was there? Maybe maybe a little salad and a glass of sauterne.
Well,
for like 5 francs. It was a little stand in the middle of the trade show.
Oh, cool, yeah.
And I remember just thinking, oh my God, if you were at a trade show at the Jacob Javits Center in New York, the best you could do is a hot dog, and they'd charge you $12 for it, and wouldn't even be that great a hot dog. I mean, it'd taste good because you'd be so hungry, but
right.
But here in France, no, it's foie gras and a glass of sauterne, and it was 5 francs. It was just nothing.
I know. It's just, that's cool.
Now, when I go to food shows, we don't usually stop for lunch because we eat continually at the food show. You're always tasting things, cheeses, and everything. So, yeah, you don't want to eat until dinner time. But anyway, it's been a good life, this life in food. I wish I'd have made more money, but maybe the next life I'll be a lawyer. And
I think it's too late now.
Yeah.
For the money part. All right, my friend. Well, you guys, good to see you again this week.
That is just about all.
We do that show so we can have fun and keep connection.
That's
all
right.
Together people.
You do it for the fun. I do it for the money. I do it for the millions of dollars that we make doing this show.
I do it for the free money. All right,
well, we'll be back next week with new topics, a new demo, and hopefully a guest. We're going to start getting some guests this fall, some interesting people from the world of food locally, chefs.
Some have been busy. It's very hard right now.
Yeah.
Some people cannot go, or everybody's not depressed, but a lot of the restaurants, they feel really tired now. It's tiring. We're all getting a little.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right, people. No worries.
It's a very hard time. But thank you for joining us. We'll see you next Monday.
Yep.